Good afternoon. Thanks for coming out to listen to our story today. Can everyone hear me okay? Excellent. So I'm Carlton Osborne. I'm here to talk to you about AnimalBiome. We are creating a platform that's going to revolutionize animal health. And I wanted to start with some context. So if you haven't looked at a microbiome company before, there's a concept called dysbiosis. And that's an imbalance in the gut microbiome that's associated with disease. And many folks are thinking of this as one of the hallmarks of longevity. And that's really the framework that we're going to be talking to you about today. And we're going to start with companion animals and a story about my dog, Yuki. So she was a 13-year-old herding dog, and she's really was part of the family. And that's a trend that we're seeing across the US and also overseas. And one day she came down with hemorrhagic gastroenteritis, which is bloody diarrhea. And we actually thought we were going to lose her. We rushed her to the vet, and when she was being discharged after antibiotics and fluids, I asked the vet, so why did this happen? And he said, well, Yuki had an overgrowth of bad bacteria. And my wife and co-founder is a microbiologist. And I was like, no, you got to give me a little bit more than that. And the reality was that he didn't really understand why it happened. And it turned out that every 3 or 4 weeks, she'd have a relapse. And so that led my wife, Holly, to shift her research from soil microbiomes that she was doing with the UC Berkeley and Lawrence Berkeley labs, and take a position at the UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine and UC Davis Genome Center, and really look at, can understanding and manipulation of the microbiome improve companion animal health? So our dog Yuki ended up being the patient zero for our microbiome restoration therapy, and she had perfect poops until she was 17. And so we're focused on cats and dogs today, but remember that dogs are a great model system for humans. There's been genetic bottlenecking, their diets are much more constrained, and so the model is simpler. And if we can solve what's going on with dogs, then we can look at how we can solve this in humans as well. The unfortunate fact is that Yuki's not alone. 1 in 3 cats and dogs have a chronic digestive or skin problem. And if you think about humans, it's about the same percentage. And really what's going on is Western lifestyles and medicine. So today, about 60 million pets go to the vet each year for chronic GI and skin problems, and it's half of all vet visits. And today, pet parents are spending $14 billion a year managing these problems. About $7 billion on veterinary services, $4 billion on diet, and the space we're in is about $3 billion on medications, diagnostics, and supplements. And the vast majority of the current solutions do not address the root of the problem. We have the largest database of cat and dog samples in the world. And when we look at the pets that have chronic digestive and skin problems, 70% of them have an imbalance in their microbiome, that if you can address that imbalance, the symptoms and the conditions go away. So how are we doing this? We were the first to bring to market at-home gut and oral microbiome testing for cats and dogs. And we distribute this directly to consumers and through veterinarians. We have a proprietary next generation sequencing lab right over there in Oakland. And what we've done is create this data moat. So by having all of this data about cats and dogs, microbiome samples, and their health metadata, we're able to surface insights about how you can change your pet's diet to eliminate digestive or skin problems. One of the main things we're seeing, though, in our data is that sick pets are missing the bacteria that healthy pets have. And today's probiotics are not the bacteria they're missing. And so we've created what's called a culturomics microbial discovery platform, where we're taking healthy stool, isolating the bacteria that we see in healthy animals, and creating a library of 1,500 isolates that are indicative of health. And from that, we are creating products today and really for the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah.
Just curious, how, I'm not a doctor,
yeah,
but if you find bacteria in the stools, how that's definitely a sign that that's the good bacteria and healthy. That's because it is going out the system. I always grew up saying you get rid of what's not good for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it turns out that stool is a good proxy for the community in the large intestine. And so through our data, we're able to understand that if bacteria in the large intestine that is typically found in the small intestine, that's sometimes referred to as an overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestine. And so what happens is when food goes through the digestive tract, it gets digested, but there are also community members that end up in the stool. And so we look at what are in healthy dogs and cats and discovered that the vast majority of sick pets are missing that. And so we developed a science-based solution that we call Test, Restore, Maintain. And so I don't know if anyone's ever taken a supplement, but it's really all trial and error. You never know whether the supplement you're pulling off the shelf is the right one for you. And then for most supplements, it doesn't hurt, so you keep doing it, maybe. And so our process is different. You don't have to start with a test, but if you start with a test, we're able to give you really a roadmap for your pet, and 80% of the pets that go through this process have a better outcome than if they just do the trial and error approach.
Do you do the test on a periodic basis, weekly basis?
Yeah, great question. So typically our customers are coming to us with sick pets and they're testing 2 to 3 times. So a test before they do any intervention, a test after the first intervention, and if it works, then they may not come back. If it doesn't work, they'll do a consultation with our team and do another intervention and often a third test. So we're primed for commercial scale. Last year we generated $6 million in revenue. About 25% of that was from testing. The remainder was from the supplements that we've developed to address the microbiome imbalances that we have discovered. We've raised over $18 million. Our primary investor is Cargill Incorporated, the largest private company that most people have never heard of. And the reason they invested is that they're deep in the microbiome in livestock. And they saw a clear analogy, what we were doing to what they're doing in livestock. And so we have 5 industry partnerships that are generating revenue for us.
I have a question from the audience. John Cacao, you want to ask your question?
Actually, yes, I did. I saw with the John Catali, Native American Venture Fund. APHIS has taken a lead role in regulatory aspects when it comes to animal testing. Is there any regulatory hurdles or things that you had to clear, whether through the USDA or APHIS, for the deployment of these tests?
Yeah, great question. So it turns out that companion animals often get overlooked by the FDA and APHIS. And so most of their focus for testing is around testing of livestock. What we're doing today, we do not say that our test diagnoses a health condition. It's a informative test. Where we want to get, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, is we've actually started realizing that the blood microbiome is going to be a better diagnostic tool. And that's the tool that we will apply with the CVM for a true diagnostic. So dysbiosis is not a medical condition today. Chronic enteropathy, IBD, those are the medical conditions that we ultimately want to be able to diagnose. So today, it's a very light regulatory regime because we're not claiming that we're diagnosing a disease, and we're not claiming that we're curing that disease. What we're doing is we're describing the composition of the microbiome, and we're addressing the symptoms in our supplements. So that's why we're taking the supplement route, which is much shorter, a much lower regulatory regime, and a much shorter path to revenue. Hopefully that answers your question.
It does. One follow-on question to that, from having a microbiome and the fact that you're doing genomics, am I to ascertain that do you do a species compatible or an animal compatibility for matching of the biome to the pet? And how does that revenue transcend from testing? There's a couple of questions. From testing to supplementation.
Yeah, so one of the things about the microbiome is that it is very species specific. So the strains of beneficial bacteria in cats are different than dogs and different than humans, but often the function of those bacteria are the same. So there's one called Clostridium hirnonis. It's in 90% of healthy cats and dogs, and it's virtually absent from all sick, chronically sick cats and dogs. There's a different strain in cats, dogs, and people, but when you're missing it, you no longer able to process primary bile acids into secondary bile acids. And essentially primary bile acids are toxic to us. And so our testing and our healthy reference is specific by species, but the methodology we're using can be extended first from cats to dogs. We're launching horses this year. We're working with Cargill on poultry, and ultimately we can apply the same methodology across all species. So your second question in there was around revenue split. So today, about 25% of our revenue is testing. People don't have to start with the testing. 75% of the people who do start with the testing go on to buy our supplements.
Are these 5 partnerships all through distributors?
It varies. So some are research partnerships. So we have actually 3 research programs with Cargill where we're developing the next generation products. Some are distributing our testing, like with Hills. This year, they're going to distribute 4,500 tests through their veterinary clinics. Okay, so I'll get to sort of our channels here in a second. Sorry, this computer. So we have microbiome testing. We're the first to market. We've improved our process and increased our pricing, so we have over 50% margin there. And then we also have supplements. We have a line of 15 supplements today. They range in price from $45 for the daily supplements up to $225 for our more medical grade supplements. So our flagship product is a purified fecal transplant, similar to what Seres Therapeutics and Rebiotics have brought to market. We've shown that it reduces clinical signs in over 80% of cats and dogs with IBD. And our vision here, so this is a challenging product. You have to have a donor pool. We have to process it. It's a good product. We make good margin on it, but it's hard to scale. So our vision is to take our database of bacterial samples, isolates, and create the next generation product that I think we have right here that currently we're dubbing it Fecal Transplant 2.0. And so it's taking that Hirnonis, well, it's really leveraging the insights we have around missing microbes and E. coli being a key driver of dysbiosis in cats and dogs, and then taking that Hirnonis product, developing one for cats, one for dogs, combining it with bacteriophages. So we currently have a product on the market that we developed with ADM, and it's a cocktail of 4 bacteriophages, viruses that target bacteria, and it specifically targets E. coli. And so 30% of cats and dogs have chronic GI problems, have high levels of E. coli. This phage cocktail addresses that, but it doesn't address all the cases. So we developed 2 new phages that we're going to combine with ADM's phages to have an even more proprietary product in market. Okay, so our paths to market. We sell directly to consumers. That's about 60% of our business. Primarily, it's from our own website, but we're starting to expand in Amazon, brick and mortar retail, Chewy, and others. 60% of our revenue comes from repeat customers. And year on year, we grew the consumer business about 50%. The veterinary business, my background is mostly B2B, so I really thought we would be a B2B through veterinary channel business, but it turns out it takes a while for veterinarians to adopt new technologies. So we relaunched into the veterinary channel at the beginning of 2022, and now it's about 25% of our business. We more than doubled our vet business last year, and we have over 1,000 clinics that are reselling our products. We have probably another 1,000 clinics that are recommending our products to their clients, and those clients are going to our website to buy those directly.
Is there a geographic dispersion?
It's virtually all US. It's where you'd expect high income households to be. So the West, New York, Texas, and Florida and Chicago are sort of the main drivers, but it's throughout the US. And then we also have what I call our data software and services part of the business, and that's our research collaborations. We've done over 30 studies where pet food or supplement companies have hired us to examine how their products perform in the microbiome. And we make revenue, we offset our R&D investment through those partnerships. So if you have any consumer companies in your portfolio, you know that the last 4 years has been a journey with customer acquisition cost and performance marketing. And we've gone on that journey. If you look in the bottom right, that's our paid customer acquisition cost. It's gone up and we've brought it back down. And really what we've been able to identify is that if we are smart about how we spend our dollars and manage our customer acquisition cost, we can continue to have 45 to 65% growth on the consumer side. The key is if we try and go over, 40 or over 60 or 80% growth, we see that customer acquisition costs go up. And our assessment is it's just not worth it. The economics would require us to expend too much cash. So our model has us keeping our customer acquisition costs below $85, and the customers that we acquire spend about over $565 with us over a 3-year period. And by extending our product line, we've been able to drive up that lifetime value by getting those customers to buy more products more often. And average order size is $135 for the first order, and then generally more in the second order. Okay, so I won't read this, but this is a story from a veterinarian that just wrote in last week. And this typifies the journey we're on with veterinarians. They know they have a gap in their practice. They know that they have these refractory cases. And when they try our product on those refractory cases, the light bulb goes off. That they didn't learn anything about the microbiome in vet school, but they're realizing it's an important component of health. And so they adopt our products to help them serve those clients. And
Another question from John.
hey, John.
Hey there, sorry, I hate to be the repeating question person, but what is your cost for the actual lab testing itself, for the initial onboarding of the client?
Yeah, so our cost is about $48 per test, and we charge MSRP $125, ASP is about $115.
Does that include the return shipping?
It does include the return shipping, but not the shipping out. That's an accounting thing that they tell me is the way to do it.
And is there any
Yeah.
special needs as far as like UN 3375, not getting too complex, but coming back, giving a pet and okay, so doesn't.
No, there isn't, because the samples are fixed, so they're no longer live at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we've made huge progress in the vet channel. I'll skip this in the interest of time. Key thing to understand, it costs us about $1,600 to acquire a vet, and that vet will generate about $15,000 in revenue for us over the next 5 years. Oh, and we've really shifted to a digital education model. So vets that go through our digital onboarding spend 3.5 times more on a monthly basis than the ones who don't go through that digital education. So this is an example of how some of those revenue generating partnerships work. So for Hills, we have a Hills branded website. They distribute the test, and then we manage the whole process for them. And we just signed a $600,000 contract with them that we'll execute this year.
Do you have so we're like.
Yep. Okay, I will skip through. So as I mentioned, we did $6 million in revenue last year. We're on track to do 10 million this year, 17 million in 2025, and 44 million by 2027. We're looking at being cash flow positive in 2025 and profitable in 2026. We are raising a Series B. We've got 5.5 committed on it, and we're looking to close the gap to raise a total of $10 to $12 million so far in total. Okay, thank you very much. Any questions?
You raised 18 million so far?
Yeah, we've raised 18 million from Cargill, SOSV, and others. And we have a lead for this Series B, and we're really looking for folks to follow that lead. It turns out the lead is DSM, one of the competitors to Cargill on this slide here. And so bringing them in helps balance our relationship with Cargill and gives us many more paths to market.
And what's your pre-money valuation?
35 million on this round.
Okay, and you're looking to raise how much?
We're looking to raise a total of a minimum of 10 million, and we've got 5.5 committed.
Okay, in your prior round, what was the valuation?
The Series A round was at 25 million and we raised 8 million.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Great job. We're gonna move on to Chris Wheeler from Incel DX. Chris, you ready?